Hey there, awesome folks. This is Mentor Shelley, wanting to make sure that you become a better version of yourself professionally. I want you to understand I am here as a career coach, but also as a true, tried and true HR professional wanting to discuss this today. It alarmed me what I saw in the news. I told you I peruse articles and videos all the time when it pertains to things of this caliber. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and start the intro, and I'm also going to welcome our esteemed guests for tonight. Stay tuned. All right, beautiful people. This is Mentor Shelley, wanting to make sure that you become a better version of yourself professionally. And I know this wasn't something that maybe you weren't expecting. This wasn't something that was planned, but I want to make sure you guys understand. I want to, we have so much to talk about today. And of course, before I get into my topic, I want to bring on my esteemed guest. You heard it right. This esteemed guest is not the first time she's been with us here on the Mentor Shelley YouTube channel or Facebook or wherever you're joining us. This is our guest, or at this point, our resident friend. So here we are. Oh, Victoria, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Victoria Langford, the credit solutionist. How's it going?
It is going great, except for the subject matter we're talking about. I don't feel so great about it. Let's be clear.
Same.
I'm not, I'm not opposed to, people and situations having rules and things of that nature, but I'm going to say this. This situation was handled very poorly. This situation did not need to go in the direction that it did. And what we're going to do tonight is go through each piece. I want to present the information. I may or may not play the video tonight, but what I will do is this. I'm going to go through, obtain the proper details, and then we're going to examine it based on the information that's provided. Okay, and as you're coming in, you can say hello. You can drop a one, let me know, hey, you're here, how you doing? And you also want to hear some, we'll definitely get into the meat of the matter on this, because as a career coach and as an HR professional, I'm appalled by what is happening here. And it speaks to, unfortunately, some disconnect as far as employers are concerned, and understanding that the rights of the employee is also as important as the requirements that you have of an employee. What I'm talking about tonight, absolutely, is the new. Let me go ahead and bring this up on the screen here. What I'm talking about is the 11 Alive reports that I actually perused earlier today. I may not play the video, but I'm definitely going to read through the information here, where they failed me. An Atlanta VA nurse attacked on the job by a patient, and the employer wanted her to come back to work after wanting her to come back after doctor's recommendations stated otherwise. Okay, this is from 11 Alive, of course. The author, Savannah Lewins and Mike Botsford, wrote this. This has happened. This just actually came out earlier today. I am going to read it But before we jump into this, Victoria, did you want to add anything before we got into the information? We got to the rooted to the toot of the matter.
Well, this one struck me a little bit deeper than normal, only because I know what the underlying tones are here, and I want to see with the people that are watching if they agree with us, because I know it struck me, and I'm glad you sent it to me. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Denise. How you doing? Welcome to the live. I want to make sure that as people are pouring in, go ahead and drop a like, say hello. We are going to jump into this with both feet because on a whole nother level, we can definitely understand some of the underlying things going on and some of the blatant things going on here that is absolutely atrocious. Now, let's jump in. Decatur, Georgia, an Atlanta VA nurse who was attacked on the job is claiming the hospital didn't do enough to protect and support her. Let's see here. Letitia Shannon reached out to 11 Alive Investigates, saying after a patient attacked her in July of this year, she was left out to dry by the VA. You would expect better from that particular organization, but we'll continue. She said VA leaders did not conduct a fact finding or formal investigation, strike one, into the attack and instead urged her to come back to work despite protests from her medical providers. These are the bruises she had. Here is pictures of some of the bruises. Here's the video that's being played. I'm going to opt not to play the video. I do want to get through to make sure all the details are provided here. The video is playing on the side if you guys can see. And you can, of course, I'll place the article link at the bottom. You can go to 11 and Live and find the story. The veteran nurse of 25 years had only been with Atlanta for a few months when the attack happened on July 23rd. She was working as an assistant manager on the psychiatric floor when she says a patient with past violent tendencies charged at her. He pulled me down to the ground. This is what she's saying. It's in quotes. He pulled me down to the ground and started dragging me. As he's dragging me, he's punching me in the face, in my head, over and over again. I can only imagine how traumatic that is. And I'm just screaming, please get him. Help me, she recalled. Where are the security guards? I have my questions already. I'm trying to hold them till I'm done reading this. I'm just thinking in my mind, I'm never going to see my kids again. I don't want to die like this. That's a sobering, but unfortunately a very possible thought being in a situation like this. I'm just thinking in my mind, I'm never going to see my kids again. I don't want to die like this. Witnesses said it took several staff members to free Shannon. She said the VA police didn't respond to the emergency call until after the patient had been detained by her coworkers. Shannon said Shannon said she asked VA leaders to watch surveillance video of the attack to analyze the VA police department's response time to the floor's emergency call. If it's a psych ward, I'm thinking they should have their own special, but we're gonna touch that in a second. Shannon has asked the leaders to watch a surveillance video to analyze the VA's police department's response time to the floor's emergency call. What was their reaction time? What took you guys so long to jump in? Shannon said. If they had been a little bit longer, I might not be here right now. At least if there was a video they could see, but they're saying there isn't one. I don't know if it's true or not. Oh, that's even more concerning. In a hospital? In the psych ward? Oh, Lord. A VA spokesperson told 11 Live Investigates that the surveillance camera on the psychiatric floor are live feeds only, saying it is currently working to upgrade the system to be able to record video. Oh, Lord. Why is there not something showing what happened? Shannon asked. How is that safe for us and the patients? That's a great question, Shannon. Medical records show Shannon suffered injuries to her jaw, face, neck, and shoulders in the attack. She said she also saw a psychiatrist who diagnosed her with PTSD, understandably so. I get up every day. And it's like, I'm just existing. I'm not living, she says through tears. I know that I probably will get better in time, but I'm never going to be the same. Of course. About a week after the attack, Shannon said her employer asked about her return to work. What? Stating that her PTSD claim wasn't an accepted condition. Oh, Jesus. All right, let me get through this because I'm going to respond to that piece as well. Pending her workers' compensation claim with the U.S. Department of Labor. A VA worker compensation specialist wrote in an email to Shannon that she had a responsibility to work as soon as she is able to, that the employee who refuses or neglects to work after suitable work is offered to and procured by or secured for them is not entitled to compensation. Oh boy. It takes all that I have to get out of bed and function. It's like all they want me to do is go back to work, Shannon said. Do they think that when something like this happens, that it's just physical? It's not. Medical records show that the doctor noted that Shannon should plan to be off for 90 days. The doctor specified 90 days. Her psychiatrist even wrote a letter on behalf urging the same. I would certainly not consider forcing her to go back while the patient who dragged her by the hair and punched her repeatedly in repeatedly in the face is still a patient on the unit, the letter reads. I do not perceive it's likely that she can return to work for at least 3 months. They need to place that patient in another hospital. Something has to change because you might do that to somebody else or she. I'm not sure if the patient is a he or she. However, Shannon said that she was told by her employer that if she wanted to take time off, she needs to use her vacation days. So she used her paid days off while she applied for workers' comp. Yeah, because that should have been that's supposed to be offered. This happened at work. When her days ran out, she said she stopped getting paid. She received an email from the VA citing her only accepted condition was unspecified injury of the face. How can you heal when you have to worry about a paycheck and paying your bills? She said. It's not just about me. It's about other nurses and patients in the future and doing things the right way. I totally agree with you because they certainly didn't handle this properly. Records show the VA declined to issue Shannon a continuation of pay after her vacation ran out, again stating that her condition is not accepted. They just left me out to dry, Shannon said. Shortly after 11 Live Investigates began asking questions, the U.S. Department of Labor ordered the VA hospital to continue Shannon's pay pending her workers' comp claim, since the hospital had not yet made her a formal offer or an alternate position. Because in that letter they sent her, they didn't give her an alternate position. Meanwhile, Shannon's co-workers who spoke to 11 Alive Investigates under the promise of anonymity says no one within their VA leadership ever came to speak with them after the attack. You would think, as a responsible employer, you want to warn your employees that there is a patient that literally just dragged her across the room like she was an abused spouse and punched her in the face repeatedly. They have not been they have not even been on the unit, Shannon said. How can you have a nurse get hurt, get beat brutally in front of so many people and just treat it like nothing happened? A VA spokesperson told 11 Alive Investigates all standard operating procedures were followed. Lies you tell, because if that were the case, you'd have a formal investigation to be able to answer questions that the U.S. Department of Labor can respond to. Shannon said she's particularly concerned no proper investigation was conducted, which I'll address in a second, since she reported the medical staff failed to correctly administer the patient's medication just before the attack. Oh, so somebody didn't give him the proper meds, so he spazzed on her. Great. She said Also requested to press charges against the patient, hoping it would prevent another incident in the future. But the VA leaders told 11 Alive it chose not to do so due to the patient's mental state. We're concerned more about the patient, of course, than the employee that got brutally attacked. Isn't that interesting? Who's going to be held accountable for what happened to me? Shannon said. I don't feel good to want to file. I have to file charges on a patient, but I don't want him to hurt himself or somebody else. Rightfully so. They need to ensure that he gets the best care possible for his mental health and not be able to harm anybody, or in this case, anybody else. Several weeks after 11 Alive investigates began asking VA leaders about Shannon's claims, a spokesperson sent an email stating, after the July 23rd incident involving Ms. Shannon and the veteran in crisis on our medical health unit, VA police immediately responded and medical care and support services were provided to both parties. Due to the veteran's health status, no criminal charges were pursued. While VA Office of Workers' Compensation Program reviews Ms. Shannon's post-traumatic stress disorder claim, we will continue to provide the support she requires to help her through this very tough time. As she is a valuable member of the she's valuable now. She's a valuable member of the Atlanta VA Medical Center. Our team is working hard to ensure that every employee and veteran who comes to Atlanta VA Medical Center has a safe and welcoming environment to work and receive their care. A few days after the VA emailed this statement, the Department of Labor informed Shannon her PTSD claim has been approved. Isn't that interesting? And requested additional documentation to proceed with her workers' compensation claim. She said while she's grateful her PTSD was recognized, she's still not satisfied with how the VA has handled the situation. Yeah, they had to be forced to do the right thing. They failed me. They failed the system, and they are failing the patient, Shannon said. I'm just little old me, but maybe what I went through and being brave enough to speak out may make a difference. The culture is wrong and there needs to be accountability. And of course, there is a phone number there for you to, if you want to report the situation to 11 Alive, you can go ahead and do so. I'm going to get back on the screen. They handled this situation atrociously. Number one, why did it take for 11 Alive, a newscasting program, to ask questions for the proper investigation to take place? Why were they requiring her to return to work when her doctor stated she needed 90 days and the workers' comp doctor, as I know for a fact, most likely has not fully done all the workups as far as mental and physical situations are concerned? Number two, why were they pressuring her to return to work? I see she was only with the VA organization for a few months. So I'm going to take FMLA, which is family and medical leave, which is a unpaid job protection leave, off the table. So she may not have qualified for FMLA. But because this happened at work, workers' comp is definitely supposed to be in the discussion. Why is it that it took the Department of Labor instructing the VA hospital for them to continue her pay? Why did it take the Department of Labor intervening? Had she not have the unmitigated gall to go say, listen, this is not something that I'm going to take lying down. Had she not gone to 11 Alive, they would have never done the right thing. They were trying to push her to return to work. This lady just got dragged across the floor by a patient, which, by the way, they didn't even bother to change him out of that unit. Suppose he did that to 5 other nurses. Are you serious? I am looking at the VA hospital as a very irresponsible employer. Are you serious right now? They clearly, Denise, it literally shows they don't care. And the only reason we're hearing about this is because that nurse, in her 20-year tenure, decided to put them on blast for a good reason. As an HR professional, this is, and they should have safety coordinators in place as well. This is deplorable. This could have put the hospital as well in a lot of hot water, because it did. Why in the world is the Department of Labor having to instruct you to continue to pay her? Hello? It should not have had to take a government entity for you to do the right thing.
I mean, look at how they treat the veterans. I can only imagine that the employees get treated worse. And as sickening as this story is, I'm with Denise on this. I initially wondered if other incidents had happened and if this person, this patient, has attacked other people. And I'm almost positive that he has. But they probably just take it like it ain't nothing. This has been swept under the rug numerous times. All right, what do you think about that, Shelley? Like, what are your thoughts? Do you think this is a one-time thing? Like, this is the first
No,
time?
no. And because most people, most professionals that sometimes and goes through things like this, some of them just leave the organization. Some of
I've
them
seen
leave the
that before.
organization
Yeah.
because the lack, there should have been an investigation, number one.
Mhm.
And there wasn't one done until after 11 Alive started asking questions. So
Mhm.
somebody now from the outside has to encourage you to do your job as an employer. Who's in your
Mhm.
HR department? Who's on your safety team? They're not doing their job.
Right. And it seems like this is going up so many, like going up into the ranks at so many levels of people not doing their job. Because I'm with you too. Why was there no proper surveillance in this area? Because here's my concern. Not only are psych patients a danger to the employees, but the employees may be a potential danger and present certain risks to the patients, whether it's physical, inappropriate touching, it could be anything. So why don't we have surveillance, right? This is the VA. They got the money. What's going on? What's really going on? You know what I mean? So I think you're uncovering something here, much like the Wells Fargo story. You know, the VA is not on the up and up.
Uh, Clearly, based on their action or lack thereof of how this particular incident was handled. And had she not had
Yeah.
enough gumption to go to 11 Alive, they would keep getting away with this nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Why was there no accountability until exposure was threatened? Hmm? Am I being naive here? Am I?
This is the bruises I had.
The photos tell the story.
One moment. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Sir. Hold on.
That part in particular was very triggering for me. So I partially wanted you to show the video only because I feel like the underlying issue here is not just that the VA is too big to have to deal with this, so to speak, because it's so insignificant to them. But I think the bigger issue here is that this woman wasn't listened to after she clearly was assaulted and had the marks to prove it. It's not like, because, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's very hard to bruise brown skin. She got wailed on. She got wailed on. And there's nothing she could have said or did to that patient to warrant that. Nothing.
No.
And who is the person that didn't give the medication? Where is that person?
Where's there's medical liability because they didn't give him his medication. It said that in the article.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give him his medication, which is why he reacted the way he reacted with her.
Mm-hmm. Endangering his health as well by not giving him his medication.
So there's liability all over the place.
Yes, ma'am. Putting everybody at risk. Girl.
And then you're trying to force her to come back to work, talking about her, she's urged to come back to work because her diagnosis is not accepted by who? You're treating patients in that same psych ward for PTSD, but because she has it as a nurse, it's not accepted? In what world?
The whole story just doesn't make sense. Like, I feel like I was in the Twilight Zone while I was reading that, because I'm like, in what world is it okay and this is a man, y'all. I'm gonna have to just speak it real. This is a man. I understand mental health is a thing. I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
However, people with mental illness and people with PTSD in particular from the military, that man is a trained killer. Sorry, I don't know if that word's going to get us, he's a trained killer. I've never been in the service, but I'd assume they're trained on hand-to-hand combat. He was wailing on her like she was some, we'll just say,
you
enemy
never
of
know
the country.
mentally
We'll
where he
that.
went.
Exactly. He might have been on the battlefield in his head. So not only are you getting hit by a man that has however many times your strength, but he's also probably not even seeing you as the nurse while he's beating the crap out of you. Right? Because here's my other question. Why did he attack her? What provoked him to do it? If she's just a nurse, what could she have done?
She's probably doing his bed or something, performing some form of services, because he didn't get his medication when he was supposed to, which is why they said he attacked the way he did. Of course, Denise, I agree with you. There's a massive cover-up going on here. You left yourself exposed to possible medical malpractice at this point. You left yourself exposed to number two. The surveillance is a live feed only. It does not record. So if you miss it, it's like you didn't happen because there's no recording happening.
Where was the person watching the surveillance? Where was he or she? Where were they? We'll say that.
They got there eventually because I'm sure somebody started making noise and ran to go grab somebody. But why is there? That's also cause for liability.
Yeah. There's just too many open-ended questions here. And the true answer here is negligence. That's it. That's the answer. Everybody that was on the clock that day that was connected to that facility in that department, section, room, floor, whatever unit, they were all negligent. That's it. That's all Credit Solutionist is going to say about it. There is no other excuse for why what happened. What triggered me more was the aftermath of everything.
It's the way it was not investigated. It was not.
Right.
That's what infuriates me. Your safety and your HR department did not do their job. Why was it not investigated? Why was it not investigated? Number one. Two, why was the letter to her is you have to come back to work? Oh, you just got some bruises. Did she even get checked properly to make sure she doesn't have a concussion, to make sure she doesn't have permanent injuries? Oh, you just have some bruises to your face. Really? You behaving like this woman is not a human being.
Oh, that's what I was getting at. Okay.
Behaving like this woman is not a human being. Was she thoroughly checked by your workers' comp? Did she get a full workup? She was attacked. by a patient. That is still in the unit. This infuriates me because it's not that it can't happen to anybody. Let's be clear.
Mhm.
Psychiatric patients, especially when they're not taking their meds properly, it can go sideways. And I'm sure
Right.
psychiatric nurses are trained in how to handle these situations.
Mhm.
But it's the fact that the VA hospital handled this so poorly. A lot of what happened could have been prevented. She should not have had to go to a news outlet to expose the fact that you're not handling your responsibilities as an employer to cut this lady's payoff. So you're literally punishing her
Mhm.
for not returning to work when you claim that she should have returned to work. Not allowing the process. In the state of Georgia, it takes most likely up to 2 weeks for
Mhm.
your workers' comp to kick in. In Florida, it's one. You have to be out for 7 days or more. In
Gotcha.
Georgia, it's 14 days or more.
I think it's the same in Virginia too.
Right. But you have to allow for that to occur. Oh, well, if you want time off, you have to use your vacation days. This two physicians, not one, two physicians says she needs to be out for 90 days because she's having
Mhm.
PTSD. So so what? It's going to take for her to start attacking people for them to take her PTSD serious? It was going to take that. So had she come back to work and she lunged at a patient, oh, now it's, oh, she's this and she's that.
Oh, Shelly, you gonna make me say it. Ah, you gonna make me say it. Can I say it now? Because I've been holding this entire time.
Come on.
Nobody gives a crap about Black women when they're injured and attacked and hurt and mistreated by the medical system. See, I can say it because I ain't on my channel. I'm going to say it. They don't care. Now, if you had told me that, if you had said what I just said, like, a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, right, Shelly. Let's just look at all the angles here. Let's see what's good, you know. But without getting too detailed, having gone through it myself, when a Black woman is in pain, nobody believes her. And well, I'm not gonna say nobody, I won't say that, but the we're so strong, you know, that's trickling down from the past in this country, right. We're not really seen as fully human. I don't care what anybody says, because if you're getting beat up and punched in the face and you go into an emergency room with a bloody lip, guess what? Nobody knows you have a PhD, baby. Nobody knows that. All they see is a Black woman who's claiming to be in pain, and who some people that are about to treat you believe that you were part of the reason that you got abused or hit or whatever in the first place. I guarantee you that the VA was started off victim blaming. I bet you. I bet you they thought she popped off at the mouth. I bet you they thought that she, moved suddenly or did something stupid. And I shouldn't say stupid, but you know what I'm saying. Did something to trigger him. They literally, I bet, nobody believed that this guy just wailed on her. It had to be something that the Black woman did. And I only know it because I have experienced that myself, where I wasn't believed. It was like, oh, you're fine. We know you just got assaulted, but here's an aspirin. The doctor will see you when they can. Right? I've had that happen before. They don't care who did it to you. They don't. You know what I mean? Girl, let me stop because I'm about to get too personal here, but they don't care. I've already read a bunch of stories. You've heard the stories too about how a lot of Black women don't even want to go to the hospital now. I was just reading something on Facebook at a Facebook group here in Virginia. There were 2 hospitals they named in that group that said Black women do not go to these hospitals. We don't know if you're going to make it out alive. Don't go. Right? We're increasingly having to decide, are we going to have a baby in the hospital or are we going to have a home birth with the doula? I'm thinking about the latter because the last time I was in the ER,
The experience.
left a lot to be desired. Left a lot to be desired. I have insurance. I have insurance. I am not in poverty. Right? So
We're
what is the excuse for me getting piss poor service? What's the excuse?
in 2024. This
Sorry, I
type of
got upset.
it's okay. We're all human, and I think they forget that we are all human because if somebody comes by and does this, the same red blood gushes from each and every one of us.
They don't seem to believe it.
And this is why I also wanted to address this. It doesn't matter what or who you are. An organization like this is not allowed to mistreat, is not allowed to ignore, is not allowed to be this careless with the people they deem as as part of their human resource. Because without those nurses, you cannot run a hospital. So why is such very minute value placed on that nurse's life? Why didn't you do your job? You had multiple opportunities to do your job before you got blasted on 11 Alive. And it took the Department of Labor and 11 Alive for a proper investigation to be done. And then when you're recruiting, you're sending shiny pony. Yeah, let's come and work for us. You'll have a great time here.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, but if you're injured, they'll leave you hanging and they'll have you hanging out to dry. They won't care about you.
No.
And the end of the day, the fact that they didn't do a proper investigation, she has the right to sue.
Yep. I'd be suing, getting a GoFundMe, all kind of stuff. I'd be doing everything because this is ridiculous and it's disgusting.
And
I'm
usually,
disgusted.
and I'm usually on the other side of this conversation in my normal professional life. I offer HR consultations to companies, to people that are running companies. And if they ever brought me in to say, well, how could we have handled the situation better? I said, first of all, your processes are piss poor at best. And I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to say it just like that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because if the Department of Labor have to remind you of the 300 plus laws you're subjected to as an employer, it speaks volumes about the things we haven't heard about. It speaks volumes about how you handle your employees in general. Yep. Who's your HR team? Why are they not doing their job? And if they're not doing their job, somebody needs to be fired or reprimanded. Are you serious? This woman her claim had to be properly processed in order for y'all to accept her PTSD diagnosis. That's a proper diagnosis, not just for the patients. Because the situation was created because somebody didn't do their job and give this patient their proper medication. This could have been prevented.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So there's a lot of people that did not follow the process, and this is the result.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about what should or should not happen to the perpetrator?
The perpetrator is mentally impaired. But understanding how he behaved towards this nurse, there should be proper protocols in place for him or her. I'm not sure if it's a him or her,
Mhm.
Um, I think it did say that this was a male patient.
I feel like it was.
Yeah, this patient should not be in this unit. They should be in the unit where they're watched, observed, be under lock and key, and have specialized nurses pay attention to them. So in the event he does this again, he's not in close proximity to drag somebody else down the hall. She shouldn't have to go back to work in 90 days and have to be around that patient. That patient needs to be placed
Mhm.
elsewhere. I'm not sure what the protocols are. Figure it out.
Right. One of them needs to be transferred out. It's either him or her. One
It
of them
shouldn't be
has
her.
to go.
It shouldn't be
Right.
her.
And I agree. And my question is also this: with all the resources that the VA has, why was this patient not restrained? Why was he, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe this.
Like,
Well, I'll say this: it may have been the first time he reacted this way to anybody on staff. So now that they know he's
mhm.
capable of doing that, he needs to be restrained, or he needs to be placed in a whole nother separate area where he's in a room by himself, behind closed doors, in a controlled environment, or whatever
Now, didn't they
protocol.
say he had a violent past?
He said he had a violent past, but we're not sure if that occurred before or after he started having mental issues. I'm not sure of the history of the patient. It didn't really
Yeah.
divulge, so we can't really make any kind of true assessment because that's not my that's not my area of expertise. I'm gonna be
They
honest.
were they were purposely vague in that. I noticed.
Well,
I
because there's
noticed
a lack of liability in that vagueness, which is why they refer to it that way. And I'm
that.
sure they
Mhm.
purposely didn't give a lot of information to 11 Alive to put that out. So
And do you think that she got the full rundown of what he was capable of? Like, do you think that she knew the risk
I'm
is
I'm
associated
not
with it?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. That wasn't information that was provided in the
Mhm.
article. And I'm almost sure that we're going to hear more about this because the fact that a news outlet had to hold their feet to the fire speaks volumes about how they operate internally.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure that you guys know if you're experiencing anything remotely close to this, God forbid, I would not want anybody that I know either in the interwebs or anywhere else to experience. I feel it for this lady
Yep.
because her life is forever affected by this. But I put all of the irresponsibility on the employer because what should have happened, let me focus on what should have happened. What should have happened is number one, that patient should have been moved that same day. Because based on what the article said, that patient's still there.
Mhm.
The patient should have been moved in a more controlled environment where nobody else can get hurt.
Right.
Or it's, oh, he didn't get his medication, so he, or once he gets his medication, he's fine. We all know the very unpredictability of psychiatric meds. They may be fine with it at one point, and it might not be enough to keep him from killing somebody the next.
There you
So
go.
he needs to be in a controlled environment, apparently, because he almost killed this nurse. Okay?
Mhm.
Two, yes, workers' comp should have been offered.
Mhm.
And it sounds like it was, but it sounds like they were trying to push her to come back to work even before the proper process was followed or let the process flesh out.
Mhm.
They were trying to get her to return to work because all they saw was a physical. You get dragged across the room, it's not going to just be a physical situation, So
Mhm.
that's two. Hey, Sorox, hello, how you doing, sweetie? I'm
Hey.
gonna have to rebound on this because yeah, it's a lot
So
going.
I have a question for you too, though.
Hold on. Let me finish.
Mm.
The workers' comp is definitely a factor, right? That should be filed for. She should have been properly evaluated by the workers' comp doctors. And based on what has happened, not just her physical, but mental should have also been evaluated. And apparently, in their initial findings, that wasn't done, which is why they promptly sent her, oh, you need to return to work by next week. Have you even gotten the results back from her x-rays or her MRI? They got to check to see if she don't have permanent brain damage based on how she's getting punched in the head and dragged on the floor. You might want to get a full medical report before you make those kind of assessments to try to get her back to work. Okay? Just based on how it was done, that wasn't properly done. Wait for the proper medical report. I know you need your folks, but you want to have your folks well and being on full duty return to work. I'm not sure if they waited for that kind of communication to go out, or your diagnosis of PTSD was not recognized. I'm still looking at them sideways on that one. As much as HR is involved in a lot of medical situations, that's not our area of expertise. And PTSD affects people in different ways. Because what you don't want is a nurse coming back, spazzing out on patients, all because you wanted them back to work too early. You might want to get a full duty release based on physical, and in this case, mental impairment because of what happened. And had she been working for the organization a year or more, then you're also offering her FMLA. Okay? So, and the fact that they said, oh, well, if you're going to be out of work, then you need to use your vacation. For the first 2 weeks, it takes about 2 weeks before workers' comp starts to pay in the state of Georgia, because this happened in the state of Georgia. In some states, it's 1 week. In some states, it's 30 days. It just depends. So instead of allowing workers' comp's process to go through, you're rushing her to come back to work. And then it takes the Department of Labor getting involved after they get exposed by 11 Alive to continue to pay her. They're instructed by DOL to pay her. So, could this issue have been handled better? Absolutely. Is the reputation of the VA hospital, as far as I'm concerned, completely obliterated as far as I'm concerned? Absolutely. You don't care about your employees based on how you treated this one. And it took them getting exposed for them to even remotely do the right thing. Now go ahead with your question, Mama.
Girl, I already forgot. But I was going to ask why did nobody help her while she was getting her ass kicked?
They did say in the article it took several people, because if you know anything about mentally impaired patients that are on the warpath, they're very strong.
That was the point I was making earlier. Not only is he mentally ill, he's a man, and he's a man that's trained to kill. I don't care what anybody says. Militaries, they're trained to kill. Yep. And I don't know. I would just hate to be in her shoes, that's for sure. And Absolutely. She could have issues for years to come.
So I'm go away overnight.
Yeah.
She's been a nurse for 20 years, and that's always going to be something that we don't know how it's going to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
I have to put her on my prayer list at this point. Poor lady. Yeah. You know, still rocks. I'm glad you came through. You're saying that on the nurse. Your wife is a nurse, and before I never realized how you got that right.
Yeah.
Nursing is dangerous, especially when you're dealing with mentally compromised patients.
Mm-hmm.
Sir Rock says, she worked in the behavioral health, still does at a lower risk level patients now. Even at the VA before, those patients have assaulted people a lot. Mm-hmm. Even the regular patients areas have risk. Yeah. Listen,
He's
being a nurse,
confirming what we said. He's
yeah,
confirming what we thought. It's
being
happened
a
before.
it's happened before. I'm going almost guaranteed this is not the first time, but this is the first time they're being exposed. It's the first time they are being exposed. Still Rock says they'll be what they be in those situations with all women nurses, limited security, and the security they do have might have to cover several floors. So they may be understaffed in that area. That's not surprising
Wow.
either.
This is about to expose so many deficiencies in that place. And I hope this lady takes it and runs with it. I hope she does. I hope she gets
Um,
every damn cent she could
I'm
squeeze.
I'm gonna almost say that there's things going on behind the scenes already.
Mm,
The fact that Department of Labor had to get involved to hold their feet to the
hmm
fire speaks volumes. And I'm not
hmm
saying I don't see this from the employer side, but y'all rush to judgment.
Right. Why do you think she wasn't taken as seriously though? That's so concerning to me.
They're looking at it from a physical standpoint only.
Hmm.
And they
Physical
made
in what way do you
meaning that
mean?
they only saw some bruises. She just needs a week
Hmm
for that. Put some ice on it. She should be fine. She should be able to take it on the
hmm
chin. Your
Based on
behind
her
getting dragged
profession.
across. Your behind's getting dragged across the hospital for you. Gonna be all right in a week? Really?
Yeah, I can't see where that would be acceptable. Not even in a prison. You know what I mean? Like, no. That that's never okay. I get that it's an occupational hazard to be maybe slapped or, but to be beat.
Beaten, literally.
Yeah, I'm like, nah, that's a little extreme if I'm being honest. So I can't even justify that. No, he's mentally ill. Oh, okay. Well, we should have taken the precautions with this person. Because it, like I said, I can't skip the fact that the article said he had a violent past. So
Right.
he still should have been like watched a little more closely with a critical eye. I'm
His environment should have been more controlled, meaning that
yeah.
he needed to be in a patient room with doors locked.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. So if something
Yep.
were to pop off, there's an easier escape route, and they can keep him under lock and key versus him having access to. Well, I'm not sure how the environment is, but apparently he must have been in a ward where it's open. So
Mhm. Yeah.
there's definitely some idiosyncrasies and inconsistencies that caused
Mhm.
this to escalate the way it did.
Yeah.
Denise, of course, says, "I hope she gets paid." I hope so too. I'd
I'm
help.
rooting. I'm
I'd
rooting for
help.
her.
I'd help.
Okay, look. I feel like we're more mad than her employer was. Jesus.
Boy, this story is extremely disturbing for anyone who works in healthcare. Absolutely. I have a
Mhm.
lot of family members and relatives that are nurses. Um, Not necessarily in the behavioral health, but
Mhm.
and that this is a major concern for me just on a human level. I've worked in a hospital before.
Mhm.
And where we when I was working there, the modus operandi of the hospital was never to have this almost complete disregard for their employees. If
Mhm.
anything, the opposite were true. Hi, how are you? I heard such and such. What's going on? I'm going to share this with you. In one of my roles, when I was at that hospital, I had an
Mhm.
office with a closed door. I used to have to keep a box of Kleenex in my office, not for me, but for the people that came in there because they have life issues going on that I can help them with. But
Mhm.
I also have to allow them to be human. And sometimes emotions come in there, whether they're talking about themselves or a family member that they're going through some things with. You have to be human at the end of the day. You can't treat everybody like a darn number and think you're going to get optimal results when you treat people like they're a number and not a human.
Mm-hmm.
And treat them like what they're going through doesn't matter.
Right.
Still Rock says, yeah, they have practices in place, but it's a lax place. Clearly, they're not following protocol, which, and especially on night shifts, which explains they don't even have the cameras recording. That's a problem.
That oh my God.
That's a problem. Hey, Dark and Lovely. Welcome to the live stream. Listening from the clouds. I don't know the exact story, but you're definitely on point with the assessment of how it's handled. Absolutely. It was handled. We'll say it again, piss poor. There's no PC way of saying that. It was handled piss poor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. And it's completely unacceptable.
Absolutely. It was. I mean, that's
it's crazy. Still Rock says they had patients throw chairs, spit, curse them. One dude grabbed her boob once. A lot of those patients need to be in prison, but somehow end up in a mental facility. Those type of patients need to be under lock and key. Yeah.
And that's what I was getting at, and I didn't want to be too harsh. I believe, I'm sorry, this guy needs to be incarcerated. And if he has to go to the mental, whatever the hell they call it, I don't know what it's called, I would be okay with that, because mentally ill or not, he still assaulted her, and he's still a danger to everyone in that facility. Mm-hmm. He is. Yeah. So just because you're mentally ill, let's say, you end up unaliving somebody. Oh, it's okay because we just skipped his medication, so it's okay. No, it's not. And that's where I lose a lot of people, because no, I don't have a bone of remorse in my body for that. I don't. Yeah, I only condone. No. Yeah, I don't condone violence unless it's self-defense. I'm sorry. I don't. So in this case, he does need to do some jail time. Now, I say he needs life in prison, but something has to happen, because he can get the same mental health care in jail, right? Because it doesn't sound like the VA is doing that well. Let me stop. But you get what I'm saying.
Clearly, based on what's happening here, Still referencing the patients know the areas where there aren't cameras. They know when to cut up and know when when there isn't enough help. They know. They may not know.
Yeah. So selectively insane is what they are. Right? No, I've always wondered about that. Like, you know how tell me if this has ever happened to you, Shelly, but like you'll be walking down the street and a person that's mentally ill, we assume, is talking crazy to everybody, just acting goofy. But somehow they know how to cross the street when the light turns a certain color. They know how to get out of the way when the car is coming towards them. They might look at you and not say nothing. They talk to everybody else crazy, but then they pass you and they don't say nothing. How is it that they have these moments of lucidity right in that moment? Really, you're can you just
you're asking me to determine when they can turn the crazy off and on. I am not a professional in this arena.
No, it's because I know some of it, not all of it. I know some of it is BS. I know it is. Because some of them will wait till a car comes to walk right into the middle of the street. And you'd be like, really, bruh? Or sis? We're not going to say it's men. It's
depending on the type of medication they're on, sometimes people will do nonsense things and put their lives in danger, because a lot of those medications that's supposed to help them also give them suicidal ideations. So it's been documented. So on a serious note, yeah, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not all the way there, and sometimes they choose when they want to be there. It could go in all three ways when you're dealing with mentally impaired folks that are on some form of medication. So that's why I said that's not my
Yeah.
area of expertise. I don't want to even go into that minefield because it truly is a minefield. What I'm saying is this professional nurse got dragged like a rag doll and punched in the face on several occasions, probably gave her a concussion. And her
Mhm.
employer, based on how they handled this, didn't care not one iota about her until they were forced to by the Department of Labor and 11 to life. That's what I have an issue
Yeah.
with.
Do you think they even filed an incident report about it? Because that's
They
part of protocol.
that is your that's your first step.
Hmm.
That's the first step. What happened here? Get a control of that patient, get a control, and make sure this
Hmm.
person is conscious because I'm sure she probably went in and out of consciousness during that whole ordeal.
Hmm.
That's first.
Yep.
Based on the information of the incident report, then you move to restrain him and probably put him under lock and key somewhere, away from the
Hmm.
rest of the patients, away from other nurses that could get hurt
Right.
again,
Yep.
and get her statement and get her to a hospital to get thoroughly checked out.
Yeah.
That's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to do an incident report. That's supposed to go to workers' comp because this happened at
Hmm.
work.
Hmm.
If this didn't happen at work, if she got assaulted, she needed to short-term disability. Takes care of
Hmm.
illness or injuries. What when it occurs outside of work.
Right.
This happened on the psych floor in the hospital. This is workers' comp. Because had she not been at work, she wouldn't have been able to be dragged all over the place or be injured. So at the end of the day, I decided to discuss this with all of you and with my lovely friend Ashley Victoria here because I want you to be aware this is not acceptable behavior for an employer. They forgot to be human in this situation. Because had any of those HR or safety people been in this situation, this would be handled completely differently. They would have
Hmm.
followed the process to make sure that all the I's were dotted. I'm sorry, all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. Of course, still rocks from an HR perspective. I wonder why management doesn't get. Oh, they have all. They're already being held to the a higher standard by the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor had to instruct the VA hospital to start paying her when they stopped, when her vacation ran out,
Yeah.
until her workers' comp kicked in.
And you know what, Shelly? I just thought about something too. They didn't think she was going to say anything.
They're hoping that she didn't say anything.
Yeah. Because most employees, well, actually, I'll ask you since you're like the HR guru here. In your experience, do you feel that more people report incidences or sweep them under the rug?
It depends on the organization. There are
Mm-hmm.
some organizations where employees, it depends on how the leadership handles it. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
There are some organizations that I know for a fact that's been around for 80, 90 years. They're incentivized to keep their incidents and their workers' comp cases low because at the end of the fiscal year, the leadership gets a bonus if they don't have any. So even if people are truly hurt, or even if they get injured at work, they're not incentivized to report it. So people will go there and have injuries that last until it gets exacerbated.
Mm-hmm.
And the leaders are so hell bent on keeping their pockets fat
Mm-hmm.
that it will encourage this kind of nonsense.
And they probably expected her to come back because they didn't intend to pay her. You
They
know,
didn't
they
take
were,
care of it at all. They didn't even want to
yeah,
push for a workers' comp through all the way. It's because
yep,
the Department of Labor said pay her until a workers' comp kicks in. Because
yeah.
workers' comp is paid through and it's an actual insurance, right? That the employer
Mm.
pays. right? And they pretty much said in the first communication they sent to her, "Oh, if you want to stay out, you're gonna have to use your vacation day." So she burned through all of her vacation.
They were trying to discourage her. That's my thought. They were trying to discourage her to not take time off. Because people protect their vacation days like it's a newborn baby, and I'd be like, look, y'all,
Um,
God gave you freedom. You go on and take them days, call on out and do what you got to do.
yeah,
I ain't no slave to no organization. Not like that. Not like that. But I've in my past when I was doing FMLA and they said, hey, you can take the days obviously, but use your vacation to get paid. I did have to think long and hard about it before I did it. I was like,
and in
mm,
some organizations, you don't have that choice. You have to use it
mm,
if you're going to use FMLA days. You
mm-hmm.
have to use your vacation to pay you for those days if you don't
Gotcha.
already, depending on the situation, what you're using FMLA for. If short-term
Mm,
disability is not a part of the conversation.
gotcha.
But any final words on this situation? Because
Mm.
I'm gonna be
Well,
I'm gonna be looking for updates on this for sure.
well, I was looking for your input. I know it wasn't HR focused. What my opinion about this was, but what are your thoughts about certain women of certain what's our thing? That's our gang sign, Certain women of aren't taken seriously when we say we're in pain. When we say I can't take anymore, I
I
need protection.
I have you're not the only, you're not the first, and you're not the last of us that has unequivocally made that statement. There are women that have had children that have been treated, that have made that statement, that have described the lack of empathy, all because deep down there is an inherent assumption that we're less human. And that would behoove anybody that listens to this video, no matter where you are from, what your ethnicity, what your culture, or what you look like. Whether you look more like me, or you're of the lighter persuasion, or maybe a little bit more chocolate than I am.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, we are all really human. And when we forget that, we leave this type of behavior, we leave this type of behavior unchecked. Today, it may have been a black woman in this situation, but it could be a white Irish male the next, all because an organization didn't care about the humans that made the organization what they are. And I am going to speak to the fact that black women, unfortunately, the pervasive assumption is that when somebody pinches you, it's not as painful for us as it is for other people. That's a farce. And if you deep down really believe that, I need you to get your head checked. I'm sorry.
People
That's
do.
the nicest possible way I can say that. I need you to get your head checked. Okay? Dark and lovely, of
Mm.
course. It just seems like black women need to be strictly work from home.
I
Boy, do I
agree
agree with you.
wholeheartedly.
I have
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, Dark and Lovely says I had to file a formal report when I witnessed a black woman injured and proper protocol was not followed. Here we go again with the nonsense. I was not nice because of a previous death in the building. And it's not just about that, but a woman, we don't know what she looked like, the Wells Fargo lady
Mhm.
that passed away. And because of negligence on their part, the lady stayed there and started to emit profuse odor before they discovered she died. I have a follow up on that too. I'll be talking about that in the next few days because that's another reason when employers push too far and they're out here being reckless. with people's
Mhm.
lives. Come on, man. So
Yeah.
Rock says you're right. They will try to minimize losses to the hospital and do everything in their power not to let stuff like this go further or get out to the public. Oh, you mean, God forbid, they're accountable for their nonsense?
Right.
Come on. That's
I'm
why I'm
so
doing.
glad this lady went to the media. She has
That's
no
why I'm doing.
idea what a
Yeah,
service she has done for all of
all
us.
of us.
I mean,
Put them on. Yeah, put them on notice. Handle your business properly as an organization, and nobody has to put you on blast if you did the right thing in the first place. Come on, man. Do better.
and
Department of Labor should,
she had to be scared too when that guy was wailing on her,
of
because
course. He
nowhere
wasn't
in
sure
that story did it say she fought back. Nowhere in that story.
because had she fought back, she'd have probably gotten fired for it.
And he probably would have killed her, actually. Oh,
You
sorry, I
never
didn't mean to
know.
say
He's
that. I don't know if that
military
word.
trained.
That's what
He's
I'm
military
saying.
trained. Anything is possible. Anything
Yep.
is possible.
Yep.
You say you're right. They will try to minimize the losses to the hospital and do everything in their power not to let stuff like this get out in the public. They will use all kinds of jargon. Oh
Mhm.
boy, do I know them.
I know
But
you probably know
you
all the
use them when
tricks,
they're
huh?
you use them when they're necessary, not when you're trying to cover up nonsense. Because this is absolute nonsense that was created by your action or your actions or lack thereof, so to speak.
Mhm.
You know, this is just.
Yeah.
So they will try so hard to push the losses on the nurses instead of filing the appropriate claims. They'll try to say the nurse put themselves in harm's way. How is that possible? When somebody else didn't give her meds, and that's why homeboy clicked off. Okay, all
We're
right.
in harm's way walking out the damn door in the morning. Okay.
Farce, exactly, exactly. So rocks
This
farce.
is
Yeah, negligence is a huge issue in the American workplace. You are absolutely
yes.
right, which is why I'm sounding the alarm on it. I'm a part of an HR team that operates from a fair and just place. Because just like how I would want to be treated in this situation, I extend that same grace.
Mhm.
And so does who I report to.
Do you
Because
think it's important for us to be in leadership like that?
absolutely. So we can
Okay.
help, so we can, number one, direct the right things to be done.
Mhm.
Because let's be clear, there's people that try to scam the system, whether it be workers' comp, short-term disability, and other things all the time. Because I have ran into a few myself, especially when I was working in Miami. I had
Mhm.
somebody. I was handling leave. I was doing leave management in one of my employers in Miami. I had one of these people, because Miami is
Mm.
infamous for the surgery of augmentation and nips and tucks and pulling up here and fixing there and adjusting there. Let's just put it like that. And I
Yep.
had somebody literally try to use FMLA, family and medical leave, for a
Mhm.
serious health condition to get a medically unnecessary breast augmentation. So you want me to give you FMLA for a boob job? Lady, if you don't go sit down somewhere.
Ooh, I have a question about that. Because with me, working with HUD, which is, affordable housing, everybody, you cannot get a deduction off of your rent through the cost of the surgery, but the cost of complications you can get written off. So I can get my boobs, whatever. But if I end up, with having to get some reconstructive surgery or something like that, HUD actually does allow people to use that as a write-off to get lower rent. So is it the same in I guess the
If
FMLA
there is,
situation?
well, keyword, medically necessary. Is it medically
Hmm.
necessary for you to get bigger than all you already have? No, ma'am.
What about
Now,
the complications?
the complications, yes.
Hmm. Okay, that's what I
There
was
may be
asking.
ways
Okay.
for you to work that in. Or if you are reducing based on medical necessity, because you may be
Mm-hmm.
having back
Mm-hmm.
issues, there may be some other complications there. It has to be medically necessary. Let me specify that.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, dark and love. Yes. Oh, they tried it. Oh, they tried it. They tried it.
I mean, what if a big nose depresses her, so she has to go get it nipped and tucked? I mean,
Is it medically
Now
necessary?
let's say if I think if it's a deviated septum, yes. But then the doctor slides in the nose job too. Celebrities do it all the time.
Keyword, is it medically necessary?
For a deviated septum, yes, because I actually have one. So if I come up with a new nose, y'all don't say nothing. Nothing.
On that note, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna let that. I'm gonna leave that alone. Because now you're trying to get me in trouble. Okay, I like to abide by the law. The Department of Labor
Yeah.
says. Yes. So, with all of that said, I brought this to the attention of all of you, and I wanted to sound the alarm on this because if you know anybody that's remotely gone through anything like this, and they are looking for help in how to handle it properly, I do have a consultation for this. It is called the Employees HR. You would go to mentorshelley.com/consultations, and that will help walk you through the proper documentation, what you need to do, how you need to put a maneuver going forward. If you feel like your employer may be taking you in this kind of direction for a wild goose chase that nobody wants to sign up for. And I want you guys to understand not all HR is evil. Not all HR people out here are just caping for the company. Mind you, we do look for, make sure that there's no liability on either side. But what we're not going to do is go out of our way to mistreat employees. And in this particular case, VA Hospital did that on more than one occasion at different levels of this whole incident. And it's quite sad and unfortunately very deplorable how it was handled. And it took Department of Labor and getting exposed on 11 Alive in order for them to do the right thing. Any last words?
Y'all, excuse me. Girl, took myself off of mute just to choke on the mic. What I was gonna say, just let this be a cautionary tale to everybody watching.
Yeah.
Protect your own neck because clearly your employer will not do it for you. Okay, you have to advocate for yourself. The medical industry will not advocate for you. If your last resort is going to the media, you do it. That's what I'm going to say. Advocate for yourself. If it feels wrong in your spirit, something's off, and if people aren't taking you seriously, like I said, go to the highest levels. Yeah. I'm all for it. I hope Al Sharpton and everybody else gets a hold of this. I really do.
I have my own opinions about that, but we'll talk about that offline.
Now he be useful. He be useful sometimes. I don't agree with the brother on everything, but
and of course
we can use this one.
Of course. And if you guys want to work with me or eCredit Solutions, you go to her channel at creditsolutionist.com. She gets to help you get your money and your credits together for all of the business ventures and the personal ventures you want to explore in the last quarter of 2024 and beyond. Of course, you guys can get all of my links at the bottom of the description of this particular video, along with this issue. If you have questions, concerns, you can always hit me up at mentorshelley.com/contact. You can leave me a voicemail or an email message, and I'm more than happy to return your voicemail and email within 24 hours, guys. At the end of the day, I want you guys as career professionals to be able to handle yourselves in these type of difficult situations. So that's why I have that available on my consultation page. And you can go to mentorshelley.com/consultations for this as well. Of course, Miss Ashley Victor, our credit solutionist and resident partner here on the Mentor Shelley YouTube channel and in all other places that I am broadcasting. I appreciate all of you that did stop by and join our conversation. Of course, still rocks, dark and lovely. Thank you so much for stopping by. Of course, our first, Denise, and everyone else that joined the conversation but did not make a comment. Thank you so much for coming. And of course, this is mentorshelley.com and Ashley, the credit solutionist, here to, in my case, help you to become a better professional with having the proper knowledge to operate in situations like this. And Ashley, the credit solutionist, that is going to help you get your money together. All right, guys, take care. You have a good one. Bye.
Bye bye.